Voice of the People, 96.1 FM.
Do you hear from you?
We love to hear from you.
Follow us at Voice of the People, 96.1 FM. See ya!
I do hope your day is rounding up pretty well. Welcome to VOP Roundup. Here we discuss the pertinent issues that concern you as a Nigerian. We're getting into the show proper today. My name is Chinwe Blessing. We will be running the show 3 ways today. I am going to be hosting the show alongside you listening to me today, and VOP in-house analyst, political economist Adefolarin Olamileko. Good evening.
Good evening to you, Blessing, and good evening to all our esteemed listeners out there.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today. We'll do well to be a part of the conversation, because say no good may you dey inside water make soap they enter your eye. It's when you open your mouth to speak that we would understand the place where they pinch you pass. Phone lines to reach out to if you want to join the conversation live in the studio via phone call or via WhatsApp message or voice notes. 0700 010-961-961. Let's begin now. First story tonight: President Tinubu went ahead to praise his predecessor, President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, he said that he served Nigeria with uncommon zeal and that history will be kind to him. And this happened at the launch of 2 books, one which is Working with Buhari 2015 to 2023, and Muhammadu Buhari, The Nigerian Legacy 2015 to 2023. In his words, well, let's hear his words, shall we?
Right.
This is the voice of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Tinubu.
You have some officers after handing over. You said, I would far away in Daura. But if you need me, contact me. But I won't intrude in whatever you are doing. I won't interfere or breathe down your throat. We've partnered to make democracy flourish in Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari, thank you. Except when I call him to say, are you living? Are you being in the farm? You don't hear from him either to nominate or intrude in the cabinet.
That supported him on his journey while he was president, and he also apologized to Nigerians in what several people have been calling, well, is this an apology or are you just rubbing in our faces? Let's take a listen to what former President Muhammadu Buhari has to say.
Our journey to the desired destination, there will be hard decisions taken and the people would bear some costs. We can only seek their understanding and state that there was no intention to deliberately inflict pain and anguish on anyone. This is why I apologize to such people at the end of our time in office. Sacrifices are still being made now and will continue to be part of our national life and development.
There was a time that the term sacrifices was used to describe a popular Nigerian actor, the one that played lots of roles. Kanayo. Now sacrifices can be used to describe the APC administration, considering that we hear it over and over again. The question is, who is sacrificing and who is being sacrificed?
Interestingly, these are quite very sensitive questions. Who is sacrificing, who is not sacrificing. If you remember the last speech of the president for the new year, he also talks about sacrifice.
Absolutely.
He even went as far as saying that Nigerians should be ready to sacrifice more, particularly with the expectation of Nigerians on his government. And he said it's not going to be that the onions will be on their table, on the table of government official alone, but rather both citizens and people in government should be ready to pay the supreme price of sacrifice. So we can, remove sacrifice from what we are doing. But when you talk about the sacrifice, you're talking about sacrifice in which perspective? I know from all instances that majority of government appointees are living on the taxpayers' money. So for me, more of the sacrifice is expected from them. More of the sacrifice is expected in terms of discharge of their duties, as well as how they carried out their activities to ensure that as they are paying the sacrifice, as Nigerians also are paying the sacrifice, there will be a balance in the sense that the sacrifice will now turn to the reality of a better governance for Nigeria. So when you talk about sacrifice should not be a burden on the people alone. It should also be part and parcel of what the government would do to shade out and ensure that their policy are quite very implemented to the point that Nigerians can feel the impact of their policy. But when we just continue to say sacrifice, and Nigerians continue to bear the grunt of the sacrifice, meanwhile the people in power, people in government are living large, living luxury, and living to the extravagant level that we can see from the consumption of what they are getting to use, from the cars they are driving to the lush porch of their offices, and the lifestyle they are living generally. Because as I speak right now, no minister can go to bed without food in his house. No commissioner at the state level can go to bed without food. They collect their allowances as when due.
I mean, is that even, is that a fair thing to put on the ministers, the governors, the people in the corridors of power, considering, you wouldn't expect the king to eat like a pauper. I'm just saying, and no, not from place of, this isn't a sarcastic statement.
You are correct in the sense that the philosophy behind governance, philosophy behind leadership, I've told you that we have 3 types of leadership. We have laissez-faire leadership, we have authoritarian leadership, and we have people selfless leadership. In our own case, we don't have selfless leadership. What we have is authoritarian.
How do you know selflessness, Adefolari? These people work hard for their money. Most of them are not just politicians alone. And I know that it's easy for us to sit on this side of the fence and be like, oh, now what are you doing and what are you not? But you can't expect an Otedola or Dangote or a Tony Elumelu to live like one of us. No. To the extent at which they have hustled.
Also, you
should eat.
You are pointing at businessmen who are profiteering from the means of their
Some
business.
of these people are businessmen. The president is a businessman.
He has been in governance since 1989. You know what I mean by being governor? He contested election as senator, then came back and become a governor. So he has been in the corridor of power since 1989 when the democratic president was opened during the Babangida era. But at the end of the day, because of the June 12th truncation in 1992, they have to extend and people have to join politics in that large number. Now, what I'm trying to point out, there are people that we appoint, there are people that we elect. This set of people, they want us to see them as selfless leader, but they are not. Some of them even come there say servant leader. But how could a servant leader be living a lush and a posh life? Driving
they
SUV.
can afford it.
No,
the
they
reason
can't.
I'm bringing this up is we need to start to draw the line.
Exactly.
If you were living in a 5-bedroom duplex that you own somewhere in high-rise areas like Maitama or Asogoro or wherever it is, before getting into office, we are not expecting you to live in a 2-bedroom bungalow. Because that is starting to look like there is no difference.
There is a difference. There's a thin line. What about in Western countries whereby we have people who have lived their life in lush before coming to government? They follow the precedent that the government established for them. They don't live that large. The prime minister of the former prime minister of Netherlands, trek from his house to his office. Although there's a new one right now which they are going to elect very soon. And that one too will live, and that one is will even live more like a poor person than the one that is living, because it's from a socialist group.
Are we now saying that because I'm in a position of power, I should curtail my normal life? I'm not talking about the people that, it's when they get into power, they start to use taxpayer money to, acquire wealth.
Exactly.
I'm talking about the people that already came from wealth.
And when you think of you are coming from, you should know that you are coming to public glare. Public glare means that you have to live a modest life. Because one thing you must understand about governance is that governance is not a place for luxury. Governance is a place for service, and that service is what will transmit and change the life of everybody in the country. But meanwhile, we have a situation whereby the chunk of our resources is now being used to take care of these few numbers of people, and that's why we have the challenge.
All right, then. Now, before I move on to the next question, which I want to ask you about this, then we get into the conversation proper. You can join the conversation live. Like I said, this conversation is three-way today. We're having it with you listening. 0700-010-961-961. You could call the studio lines and have your voice air live in the studio. You could also send us a voice note or a message via WhatsApp on the same number, 0700-010-961-961. Back to you now. Now you're saying that, when you come into the position of power, even if you come from a place of wealth, you should be able to, you should tone it down. How do we get to that place where we actually get them to tone it down?
We can get to that level because we need to have a framework on how you can live modestly when you're in government. Because for now, the current dispensation we have right now is that everybody that comes to government want to expend on government resources. I said something earlier today when I was on other sister channels, and I was like, people who come to government are tempted because there's this luxury life that you are tempted into accepting once you come to government. Everything looks so free, everything looks so so easily to get, and that's how when you now see the same people, when they leave government, they find it difficult to live that life they were living when they were in government. And we can get to that level with our laws that can be put in place. I share an idea and I said, what we have is this: once you are appointed into government, let's say you are made a DG or a minister, the first thing that come your way is that this civil servant that you are going to be working with, they will come with all the temptations ideas on how you must live. And I cited a good example of someone who was the Caesar of an anti-corruption agency, who was living in a modest part of the city in Abuja. He was living in Karo. I'm talking of no other person than former AFCC chair Magu. He was living in Karo, but he was tempted to move from Karo into city center and asked me how much he would be paying for a house in city center. 240 million a year. And in the law book of how he must live as a Caesar of the years, there was nothing like that, but he was pushed into that as a result of what? The luxury life that political appointees engage in themselves. Look at the members of the National Assembly as well right now. Most of them are giving housing allowance that runs into millions of naira. There is a means to stop it. A minister is appointed. He was in Abuja staying in an hotel before he moved into a big mansion. And you ask yourself, why is it like that? What about their convoy? When they were living normal life, how many cars do they have as convoy?
We have civilians that do that. We have civilians that do that.
Go and check the life of those civilians that do that. I even had the opportunity of seeing one.
By
recently.
Civilians, I mean people not in political.
And I saw one recently, and my friend was telling me that it's a Rito. And I said, Rito, you see, that's why he asking about 6 policemen following him about. And I said, the reason why he's having that 6 policemen following him about in those entourage was that in case he collect people's money, you will not be able to go and challenge him to pay him back. That is it. So we must be able to curtail those excesses because they are eating up our wealth. They are eating up money that's supposed to go into developmental project. Do you know what happened in government? It is easy and very fast to release the allowances of ministers and the rest of them to them. But when it comes to release money for borehole to be drilled in a particular village, it will take the entire year. One file will be moving from table to table to table to table to release money to do borehole. But when it comes to the allowances of those same ministers, it is very easy. When Buhari was leaving, he settled about 1,448 individuals who worked with his government when he was leaving. Do you know how much they consume? And that money was released before May 29. But guess what? The same government, when they were going to, they failed to release money for CCTA, conditional cash transfer, for people who are to be collecting 5,000 naira.
Now that you brought up what happened in the Buhari's administration, let's take the conversation there. Now, in 2015, if you stood in a market, any market, and you screamed "Say Baba," it was a call of hope.
Exactly.
It was like a cult membership. Everybody would feel excited. They can even start dashing you things in the marketplace
seriously.
because it meant salvation had come. That was the campaign promise that was brought.
Exactly.
That was sold to Nigerians. Now, let's discuss the administration before his, the PDP era. But we won't go far. Let's just stay on Jonathan, where he took off from, because President Tinubu mentioned a number of things that he said, well, people are quick to forget that this is what you inherited.
Exactly.
Let's talk about put these two administrations vis-a-vis. Let's compare them. Where Nigeria was 2015 when when Buhari took over, and where Nigeria was 2023 when Tinubu took over from Buhari. Should Buhari really be applauded? And for what?
I think specifically he will be applauded for certain things he did rightly, and he will also not be applauded for certain things he did not do rightly. Take for instance, people will tell you that today the southeast of Nigeria is enjoying a new infrastructure road called the second Niger Bridge. This second Niger Bridge has been in a pipeline since 1999, but no government from Obasanjo to Yar'Adua to Jonathan took it up. There was even a fraudulent activities around that project within the period that they're supposed to take it up, but it was only by the bold step of Buhari that project was delivered. People were applauding for that. But let's also go this other way around. In the same Buhari government, Nigerian currency, the naira, became a free fall because of the inaction of the government to tackle the corruption within the FX market of Nigerian economy. And today, naira is suffering it because of what? Buhari government failed to do the needful. We would have put behind our back BDC, black market, if Buhari was very serious about tackling FX challenge in Nigeria, if he was really serious to tackle the naira free fall, because what is happening to naira today, it is not just because we don't have enough dollar to supply to importers. It is because we have greedy, wicked, inhuman individuals who are committing crime against us. As a result of what? Dollar has now become a trading particle that you can now pick on the shelf in a supermarket or in a bureau de change office and begin to trade and begin to make money. Over the week, just this weekend that just passed, naira was selling for 938 naira, even on the official market window. And you ask yourself, why do we have such problem? Because government have created a loophole within that sector, and the Buhari government had all the power when they came to power in 2015 to trample on all these people and owe them. But guess what? They see a lie to fatten, and that's why under the Tinubu government, it can do nothing to change the nature of what naira is passing through. And not just because of Buhari issue, but because previous government too failed to tackle it, but Buhari had the chance to do it. Particularly, another good angle you can give Buhari applaud is this: there was recession twice in Nigeria. Many of us have forgotten. In 2015, 2016 to 2018, there was recession. But guess what they did?
What is more receding than the economy now? No, because for Larry, we can't be taking these issues from. We can't keep trying to be politically correct.
Exactly.
About these situations. We know that they said, we had the problem the Nigerian economy was going through a recession, and then we came out of the recession. Are we truly out of? I mean, as of today, are we truly out of recession? Not even in the days of Buhari anymore.
No, when you talk about recession is quite different from what we are facing right now. There is still productivity. Recession is when there is low productivity, particularly that affect the economy from the gross domestic product. And again, when you now talk about the situation whereby government cannot meet up with its revenue target, by the time you add these together, recession has happened. Because when they talk about recession, they're talking about the greater fall, consistency fall in the gross domestic product of the economy, whereby there is no way the economy can survive. The recession has taken place. You get it? That's what happened in the Buhari era, and we have already had it before. But what I'm trying to point out is that even when they solve the problem of the recession, they solve it with too much money that they push into the economy, that those money we cannot even see evidence of it in a concrete terms, but we can see it in a minute terms. One, we can see it in the railway. We can see it in the second Niger bridge. But where else can we see this money that was pushed into the economy? The one they pushed into the agriculture, it became a scam. 1 trillion naira was given to rice farmers to farm. They could not account for the money. Money was given to take care of people that flooding affected. Nobody can account for it. In one hand, they are solving problem. In the other hand, they are creating more problem.
What the question I want to ask is, if you want to appraise a situation, I think you would praise and applaud in this situation.
Exactly.
You applaud someone that has solved more problems than he has created.
Exactly.
Now, this is the administration where we saw laxity. I don't think we saw so much laxity. It took 6 months for the administration of Buhari to come to give us ministers.
Exactly.
His campaigns were on security. He said, I've been in the army, I can handle it. Boko Haram was the crux of the security issue we had at the time. But in the 8 years that Buhari was in power, we saw it translate to attacks, to bandits,
kidnapping.
to kidnapping. We saw it translate to mass killings. We saw it translate to ethnic crimes. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
We also saw the value of the naira, like you rightly mentioned, depreciate. This is the same administration that created the humanitarian affairs ministry that is now causing us problems where we are seeing monies disappearing, is swallowing monies in a hole. Can we say, again I ask, looking at all these things that we've mentioned in view, yes, of course, there's no way you'd have gone 8 years without doing anything good at all. But if we put it side by side, does the good outweigh the bad to the point where he is deserving of that ceremony?
Definitely, the people who work with him are the ones that was celebrating him. Do you see any Nigerians celebrating Buhari exit? Talking about celebrating him to have performed marvelously or performed in a way that would demand us bringing out drums, bringing out champagne. No, it is people who work with him. And look at the idea, look at the psyche of those people. They benefited. They are not living the way they were living when before they entered government. Femi Adesina that wrote that book, Garba Shehu that was there, every one of them, the entire 1,430 people that served under Buhari government for that 8 years, their life has changed. If you understand what I mean. So these are the people that will sing his praises, that will bring out the drums, that will talk about how fantastic, how cocastic his government by allowing have done or great activities that have caused economic evil for us. We have to point it out. The same thing the way we are pointing out Buhari, we also point that one out. In Buhari government, he made fertilizer to be cheap, but guess what? There was middlemen within the value chain of fertilizer supply that will not make it cheap for the people to have access to. He gave money to youth. He gave money to people in the name of Empower, graduate internship program, humanitarian conditional cash transfer, CCTA, and it makes sure that all those things comes out. But guess what? He also create a problem within that value chain because it was the people who are implementing those products or those policies that were enjoying it. Take for instance, we were feeding children during COVID-19 lockdown.
Till after the COVID.
After the COVID, who enjoyed the contracting, splitting within that period? The civil servant, the person they appointed. So they were the people that came to Abuja to say we are launching a book about him and we need to applaud him. But go and ask ordinary Nigerian on the street, they will tell you, why should I?
Now this would bring me to the question, what is the value of the words of the current sitting president of Nigeria? Because two things will come to mind when you hear the president of a country saying, oh, we applaud this person, these books are amazing, in fact they should be taught in schools. Meanwhile, the situation on ground is different. So what is the weight of the words of the president?
Definitely it's weighty. It's something that we can take very seriously. But on the other hand, we also need to weigh it concerning the reality on ground. He said those kind of things that Buhari did can be taught in school. Okay, let the curriculum expert look at it and see the one they can pick out of it and put in the school. And it will even be good if it can become part and parcel of our historical development. Because for me, as someone who understands Nigerian economic history, it is part and parcel of what we need to...
Have you read those books?
No, I don't need to read the books because I'm a living person within the period of his 8 years.
I am 6 chapters in, and I don't want nobody teaching my kids that is
No,
what happened.
no.
Because that is not the truth of
No,
what happened.
the issue is this. See, in that book, there will be critiques of that book. We have books that was written for us since 1960. Have you not been told that it was Mongo Park that discovered River Niger? Were you not ever also told that it was not Mongo Park that discovered River Niger? The same thing can be done as a critiques of this book, that Buhari did this, Buhari did that. But you can now say, okay, yes, he wanted to do it, but he didn't do it. He tried to do it, but he never did it. He promised this one, never fulfill it. We can also puncture all those ideas that the books will give, and give us the opportunity to now know, because it talk about open-ended activities, so that we can now find lasting solution. But if we say we should not put it in books for the children to learn, they will never know about a particular government that came during his time that spent 1.7 trillion on rice farming, and Nigerians never see the effect of that rice. Is it not better we know about that president and know about the people that work with him? Was it not the same thing we can know about the insecurity that happened during his time, that Boko Haram transformed themselves into bandits and kidnappers, that school children were kidnapped broad daylight, even midnight, and government was paying ransom money for school children to be released? Is it not good we learn such thing from those books, so that we can now say, okay, as a reference point to this person, during your time, this is when this kind of thing became so dangerous to the economy of Nigeria and to Nigerian people at large?
I don't know if you're familiar with the term gaslighting. It's basically a form of psychological manipulation where the abuser attempts to sow self-doubt and confusion in their victim's mind.
Definitely.
That's what gaslighting is. Would we describe this act, this speech that was given at this book launch by the President of the Federation, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as gaslighting the Nigerian public into believing that they aren't experiencing what they experienced, they didn't experience what they experienced? Because this is the same this is where the confusion comes in. Are you following?
Exactly.
This is the same administration that has said on several different opportunities that they've had. They have said they inherited a bankrupt economy. It's so bad they can't even cover up for the APC and for the former APC administration, for the Buhari's administration. They're like, this is what we had inherited. We're just trying to make it better.
Exactly.
And now we're having the same person come out and say, oh no, you led well, you did great. The job might not have been finished, but we'll continue. Is that even let's start here. Is that even an accurate statement to make? That the job might not have been completed, but he did a good job, for starters? And then secondly, do you think the Nigerians are probably currently being gaslit?
Definitely. One thing you must know about gaslighted.
Sorry.
One thing you must know about people in power is this, especially people in government, is this: they will always come with that statement of hope. They will never come with that statement of doom, because they are not prophet of doom in the first place. They will always come with that statement of hope to assure you that things are working well, things are going on well, there is light 24 hours, there is this, there is that. But in reality, you know properly that these are just the gaslighting to ensure that there won't be any anarchy in the society. What do you expect the president to go and say in that kind of forum? President Buhari, when you are leaving, Naira has continued to follow, it has never risen. You won't say such thing, because if he says such things...
Is that not the situation we need? There's a difference between being hopeful and telling people blatantly that what they saw is not what they saw. This is not the first time we are seeing the president do this to Nigerians.
Definitely. That's why he came up with that rapping statement that the work has not been done. In other way, we can interpret it that the work that was even done was not done properly.
No, was there a work done? Because the work done, based on the analysis that we just had in the house, that you just gave us, the work done is Nigeria took a U-turn for the worse.
Definitely. That is the reality.
So if he says that the work done is not completed, is he trying to tell us now that we're heading in the wrong direction? We're heading back towards doomsday, because it's starting to feel
because
like it.
we can give several interpretations to the work done and the work not being done properly. Not done completely, in a sense that the one that has been done, by the time you peruse and look at it, you discover that you will even pick it and start all over again. I don't know whether you get it. You will pick it and start all over again. A good example is this: under Buhari government, a road is being constructed between AYA to Yanya. As I'm speaking right now, the contractor are still paying up the road. and putting under asphalt. But that is the road that was being put in the same book that we're about to read, that it has been completed, a good road has been put in place. But we knew that that road is still undergoing construction because they are still peeling off the asphalt on it and they are trying to put another one. I don't know whether I get it. That is the area and I said we can now interpret the work not being properly, or the work has been done but it has not finished in our own understanding of what the president have said. So because for me, I don't think the president will go to that kind of forum and say a negative things against his predecessor. Rather, he will always try as much as possible to polish him. But we know that internally there were challenges. Was it not the same president that suspended and put into under detention the man that the Buhari appointed as EFCC chairman? So by the time you look at some of the things that Tinubu have taken, you discover that there are issues with the Buhari government that nobody can put under the carpet for us not to know. And that's why Buhari himself came out and said, if anybody that serves under me is having any issue to face any of the law, let Tinubu take that person up.
Can we say this is politicized? I mean, if Tinubu was taking over from another party, do you think he would be doing this he'll be making this heavy attempt at covering up?
Definitely. Buhari took over from Jonathan. Did you see Jonathan being prosecuted under Buhari? Never. Rather, they just go for the people they felt that who work under Jonathan.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the applaud. I'm talking about the applaud. If Tinubu took over from a Jonathan or from anybody else, that was not an APC party, would he be applauding them, given the circumstances of what he found on ground when he became president?
Buhari did same for Jonathan. He applauded him in some areas. But when it comes to the issue of fighting corruption, that is where Buhari take Jonathan up. But he did not take him up personally, he did not take him up individually, but he took the people who work under Jonathan and he took them up. That's why you see that the issue around the Dasuku Gate was one of the pioneering corrupt issue that Buhari government took up. And they arrested and picked everybody to the point that people were returning the money back to the government. But when it comes to Jonathan, he applauded him. And when it comes to Jonathan, he even invited him to the villa on several occasions that they did in Eagle Square. Jonathan was there. That will say that he applauded the person Jonathan, but some of the things that would have been carried out by people who work under Jonathan definitely will not applaud. The same thing is what Tinubu is doing right now. Shadia Umar, the former minister of humanitarian affairs, she has been picked up. She's been
probed.
Exactly, probed. And don't forget, there are still a lot of individuals that is going to come into EFCC net who work for Buhari. A lot of them will still come. They are just looking at opportunity when this will be served to them, and they will start very soon.
Let's appraise the fighting corruption situation. You brought it up. Would we say that Buhari, and I know that this is not the purpose of this conversation is not to really go back and praising Buhari's administration, but then the president has put us in that position to look back and see where it is that we are coming from and how we got into this place in the first place. For an administration that campaigned on the wings of security and fighting fighting corruption first, then security second.
There are three issues: fighting corruption, security and economy.
How well would we say they did? Let's start with fighting corruption. I mean, now we are still having people under the administration under the knife till now, but let's go back.
I think they wanted to start it. They wanted to start in a way that they will take on the opposition party, people that are found wanting, that have corrupted themselves during the PDP era in 2011 to 2015. They started by picking people, particularly on the arms deal, which was quite alarming. And they picked people, they incarcerated people, they took them to court. But in my own understanding about corruption in Nigeria, it is very, very difficult to fight corruption in Nigeria because it is the same people who are just changing party and jumping from one party to the other. If you remember, who are the people that formed APC? We are elements in PDP who are not happy with what was happening in PDP, then form political party with other people and form APC. Now, can we say they have eventually successfully fight corruption? They can't, because it is the same elite conglomerate, the same elite camp in the Nigerian sector that are corrupt. And how are they able to escape some of these activities? Like, elite in Nigeria know how to spread the net of their corrupt proceeds. You get it? They know how to spread their corrupt proceeds, and that is how it is very, very difficult to fight corruption in Nigeria. Take for instance, I made mention of Ibrahim Magu, the former EFCC. How did it become so difficult for him to fight corruption? He was living modestly when he became EFCC chairman, but all of a sudden he wants to live among the big boys, move into an accommodation that costs over 240 million naira. So it is from there you begin to know that, okay, to fight corruption, these people already entangled themselves with corrupt activities. Talk about the cars that EFCC seized under Buhari and the one they seized under Jonathan. They started selling them without giving or getting approval from the president. And that's why when President Buhari appointed somebody who will be collecting those seized properties, that one also embellished himself into corruption. In the person of Barrister Obla, something Obla, that was his name. He also embellished himself in corruption because people now discover he was not eating from those proceeds by himself and for himself, whereby he now doing a selective judgment on the basis of which person cars to seize, which person property to collect. I don't know whether you follow those stories there. And these are the challenge of fighting corruption. So Buhari government was not able to fight corruption as him personally wanted to fight it, because the people around him are people who have friends who are already corrupt. So they are not in government.
He put those people around him. Most of them, he had the power to put around him, and not just like Tinubu is doing right now. Better do. He put her there. She wasn't doing what he wanted her to do, and he took her out. Tinubu had that opportunity. He had that chance. Why didn't he take it?
But have you been following the latest story that the same people are now calling for that lady to be reinstated back? Reason because they believe that the actual job to spread the wealth in that ministry is not yet finished.
Okay, so is that not where your ability as a leader to put your foot down comes?
Definitely, we expect that to happen. But how would that happen when the political party themselves, members and followers, are looking for opportunity to take from this national cake that we call national resources?
We'll come back and talk about. We'll come back to talking about the role that we have played as citizens of Nigeria to in making Nigeria what it has become. Let me take a few comments off of WhatsApp. I have this one. He says, it is very clear that for Nigeria to survive as a nation, the head of some past presidents and present presidents has to some past presidents and some present presidents have to be sacrificed. They've cost us a lot of unbearable pains to millions of Nigerians. That's what this person has to say. Another one says, many Nigerian politicians are not in politics for the citizens, but for themselves. I have this other comment. It is obvious Tinubu and Buhari are taking a play from Jonathan's book on governance. Ayo Meiro essay, situational awareness, analysis, and preferring solution to critical questions is govt. Okay. Okay. Great. Got that. Well, these are the comments we're getting off of people. Let's. You can join the conversation. By the way, you can send a message to 0700 010-961-961. This person says, I'm rejoiced from Nyanya. I feel very sorry for my country, Nigeria. Well, we all feel sorry, but we have to do something other than feel sorry. Agaba says, individuals without character and capacity like Buhari should not be entrusted with the lives and future of millions of Nigerians. He is the worst of our bad leaders. I mean, that's very sad to hear. That's a very sad place for Nigerians to be in. Of course, you can also, like I said, join the conversation live or drop a message. You can also catch this live broadcast on YouTube at Voice VOP Abuja. That's what it is on YouTube. Back to the conversation. We've spoken a little bit about corruption. Now, another thing that was highlighted on was the issue of security. I know that I mentioned a few things that went wrong with security, but let's appraise it a little more.
In security, we can also give it to Buhari a little. If you say out of 20, we can give him maybe like 7. Because one, he came into government in the sense that there was a little bit of a very heightened insecurity in northeast of Nigeria. But because of the kind of support he gave to the military, kind of spending he gave to the military, there was a little bit of hope that Boko Haram was limited technically in the northeast. But all of a sudden, Boko Haram transformed into bandit, cattle rustling, and the rest of them. But other part of the country also suffers security, which is particularly in the southeast, also in the southwest, particularly in the area of ritual, armed robbery, and the rest of them. But fighting Boko Haram, fighting terrorism, it tried its best, but the best didn't give us a secure Nigeria as expected. Because we must say that it tried its best, but its best did not give us the secure Nigeria. Because there was a research I participated in 2013, 2014, before Buhari came to power, that talked about the economic damage caused by Boko Haram, and it was in billions of dollars. But the question we ask is that after Buhari 8 years, has the economic vibration of the Northeast returned back? The answer is no, it hasn't returned back. But rather, the economic challenges are still there. Hotels, apart from the hotels that NGOs will come and occupy, other activities that would have helped the economy of Maiduguri to bounce back is not yet there as expected. But Maiduguri town is the only happening area in the north, especially in Borno State. But what about other local governments? Borno State have over 20 local governments. What about the rest of them? You get it? But we will just hope that the current governor, whatever is putting in place, will help the economy of Borno to come back, especially the farming in that regard, because they are trying as much as possible to resettle people back. But we just hope that things will be more better under the Tinubu administration, that he will be able to sustain and take the firepower of the military higher than where Buhari left it, so that we can know that we have quenched everything about insurgency in the northeast, particularly the Lake Chad area of the country.
Where did we get it wrong as Nigerians? I mean, both in the covers of politics and even as Nigerian people that are waiting to be served by the government. Where did we get it wrong? Because looking back at the following, there's a lot that has happened, though. There's a lot that isn't working. We are not in a very happy place.
No,
right now.
You are very correct.
And how did we get here?
We get here because a lot of our leaders who have the opportunity to make things happen never envisage it in their heart before they get into the government and turn it around. A lot of us will normally, the military era, there was this, there was that. Fine. But the same military guys transform themselves. Majority of them are the ones that usher in those ones that are available today. Some of the military guys, some of them are still serving as civilian senators, civilian house of reps, here and there, former governor, former this. They are still around. They have boys that have been planted across. So what I'm trying to point out is that we got it wrong because we never have a vision leadership style in Nigeria. All kind of leaders we only have are feeble individuals who become leaders by accident, or who become leaders by sheer luck of knowing somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who just push them forward, or somebody who just become an errand boy to a particular leader, and from there they became a somebody. I've heard a lot of people say I was a errand boy for some person, I was a PA, I was a this to this person. Now I'm in the National Assembly, so you have to serve in that same process and follow that same procedure before they bring it up. And one thing is that once you follow that kind of process, you are introduced into the bad habits, into the corrupt activities of those individuals. I don't know whether I get it. Now I'm a PA to a particular commissioner or a minister, and that person has been discovered to be a corrupt individual. It will lead me through or lead me through all the corrupt proceedings that he normally entertain or normally follow through. So when I also get to the level that he is, what will I be doing? Also be following the same trend. And that's what has happened in the Nigerian leadership trajectory. All the leaders were had, apart from the early ones in the 1960s, even the early ones in the 1960s, some of them had this corrupt tendency in them because most of us were not exposed. So when I said this Buhari book can also become part of book we can be reading book, because the books we read about those people never told us that they had problem with corruption, but they had. Some of them have vast land that their family, current family, grandchildren are enjoying today. But will you not say or ask the question, how did they acquire those lands? Although some in the north will tell us there was someone that was introduced to last week, the son of Tafawa Balewa, that doesn't have a car in Abuja. And I asked, if he doesn't have a car in Abuja, do they have land in Bauchi that they came from? He said they have, but he's not looking for political appointment. I said, but if the opportunity of political appointment came, won't he get it? Because we have had a son of Shagari becoming a minister, and till tomorrow he's still living large. So, but you ask yourself, where did their father get those acquired properties and the rest of them they are enjoying? The same thing with Buhari now, even though you claim that he has only 300 cow, and he doesn't have a house in Abuja.
Well, I mean, we've seen his house in Daura. He looks like he's leading a very, low
definitely he will live a
life.
modest life. But what about his family members? Because they, like I am now, I've been telling myself that I won't, even if I have the opportunity to serve in government, I will make sure that I'm not corrupt. Is my wife ready not to be corrupt? If my sons, my daughter, are they ready not to be corrupt?
The issue of family, I mean, we've seen situations where Tinubu is calling his family out when they're not doing what is right.
Definitely.
He walked his son out of certain meetings. He called his daughter out and said, I don't want to hear that you're using the jet anymore.
Exactly.
It's not personal. And, we see these things. Would we say that this is a good way?
But that doesn't, that may not stop them from, those people from still putting their hands or using their influence to get certain things for their friends. Cutting corners, and it will still happen. But the ones that are very obvious, that he knows that with his power, these people supposed not to be in those shoes, he will definitely cut them out. But the ones that those children will be doing underground, who knows?
Is that not where we all come in? Because we are still the civil servants that are meant to do these things. We're still the ones that it trickles down, doesn't it?
Definitely.
What role is the average Nigerian playing in the decadence of Nigeria?
Every Nigerians are even confused, because when it comes to election, they bamboozle with religious sentiment, ethnic sentiment, tribal sentiment. They bring all the sentiment that they know that you yourself, you cannot separate yourself, so they put it on you. The last election, what kind of sentiment did those politicians throw out? One of them was going up and down to churches and the rest of them to castigate others. It was in the same period they were telling us Muslim ticket. So they use all manner of sentiment to confuse you. So by the time you now take that on yourself, I begin to admire and begin to think about, they say this one, that one. You follow it. And that's the confusion Nigeria. So they use that to cage Nigerians. By the time they cage Nigerians with those sentiments, they now use the opportunity to steal and loot our wealth. That's why when a politician is talking, just know that it is half truth that he's telling you. Don't take him completely that what he's saying is
that
right.
Just, I mean, your submission just leads us back to the point where Nigeria is so decayed that we do not even demand truth and honesty anymore. You're expecting to be lied to, and that is just below it. Just so we're not running out of time. Now, the ex-president went ahead to tender apologies, to the Nigerian people. Would we regard it an apology? He mentioned that he had to make tough decisions. My question is, not only regarding the Buhari administration, now I'm going to say the APC administration.
Exactly.
We've seen series of not tough decisions now. Pardon me to describe them as ill thought through decisions several times, and Nigerians are at the receiving end of it. I could give examples, starting with the most obvious one, forex, floating of the naira, fuel subsidy. The decision Buhari's administration made to just keep printing naira over and over again, and we still don't know what the naira was used to do. And that further went on to devalue the naira to where it is today. Should Nigerians first off consider that an apology?
Definitely.
Secondly, should Nigerians then start to look towards an acceptance of that apology?
Definitely, many Nigerians will accept that apology. Many will not also accept that apology, and many will just say, I bet he has done his. The worst he can do was to become president for 8 years, and he has gone. So whether you are accepting the apology or doesn't accept the apology, it will be divided into 3 groups. A group will accept, one group will not accept, then the other group will be neutral. Nothing concerns them. It has happened. It has happened. That's how Nigeria has become in the last 8 years. But the message is this: tough decision by government is not tough decision that will save the country. I know, and I'll explain. What I mean, I'll explain is this: most times when government take a tough decision, that tough decision is to the detriment of the poor. Although the vision of the government is to tackle the problem, but the problem cannot be tackled when it is the poor that will suffer the effect. And that's why when government say they take a tough decision, the tough decision doesn't solve the problem as expected. Rather, it will be twisted and turned around to become a challenge to the poor. Take for instance the removal of fuel subsidy. It's a very tough decision for every government since 1999 to take. But was the right thing done in taking such decisions, just like you rightly pointed in your question? No. Now the government wants to take that decision to punish certain individuals who are cabals, who are elite in the economy, who have been scamming the government out of fuel subsidy. But is it by removing the fuel subsidy that will solve the problem, that will now bring a devilish effect on the people? But rather than going after these people, the Jonathan government go after subsidy scammers. How did it end? Never succeed. Get it? Why? Because they discovered that the same scammers are members of their political cabals and members of the economic cabal, which they cannot do anything against. I don't know whether you get it. Because they are all in the same political fray. So there's nothing they can do. Because some of them are even coming boldly to say that part of the proceeds they got was used as donation to the party when they were organizing dinner party for campaign. And that's what happened.
In 3 minutes, Adefalarin, looking ahead, these things have happened, like you mentioned.
Exactly.
That administration, they've done their 8 years, they've gone, but we still have a country to contend for. In the next 8 years, we're not wishing ill health but I mean, there are certain people that will not be here with us. They've done their time.
Exactly.
It's just the nature of life. Looking ahead, what lessons can we learn from these contrasting views? Appreciating, applauding, while at the same time we know that things are not going the way that they should. How can we just be a better country?
For me, I pray we all have a prosperous life to see the end of this administration and see more administration to come so that we can begin to put everything in perspective. That's our prayer. But the contrast within either applauding or not applauding is this: there is lesson, there is gaps. The Buhari government had created a gap. Before he took over in 2015, he had the opportunity. Why? That's what I normally say to people. You have the opportunity to do things rightly. You grab the power, you run with the power. But I don't know, what did you do with the power? And when you grab the power and have the opportunity to sit in position of authority, the first thing that should come to your mind is, how do I solve the problem of the poor? But in solving the problem of the poor, know that there are people that will fight you not to solve the problem of the poor, because that's what we are facing in Nigeria, and that's what we are faced globally. When the problem of the poor is about to be solved, there are some people that believe that when that problem is solved, it affects them. I hope you are getting me. The same thing happened to Nigeria. When the problem of resources is to be solved, it is to solve the problem of government having more money to put in infrastructure. But guess what? That problem is the pipeline of some people getting more money for themselves. So how will you solve the problem of the poor? The same thing we have been shouting, that inflation is eating up the economy. By the time government begin to take action on solving the economic problem through inflation challenges are having, some people will not be happy with it. The same thing with the FSI I mentioned earlier. Because by the time we say we want to cripple take out the challenges to help the poor, they will say, some of them will remind us of some of the Bible, some of the good book quotation that the poor will always remain among you. So how will you solve the problem of the poor? But for me, the government of the day must think more about the poor. And in solving the problem of the poor, it is not by pushing too much money out. Because when you're pushing that money out, you are pushing the money into the hands of some few people. Rather, be concrete about how to solve the problem of the poor. Particularly, infrastructure is key. Let us solve the problem of power. No person will be looking onto government for handout in terms of money, in terms of Smidan organizing clinic of entrepreneur. Nigerians are already entrepreneur. The economy is a trading economy. Once you give Nigerians opportunity to do their business, they will flourish. Not until government will begin to train them on how to become an entrepreneur. Well, entrepreneurship is already in our blood, and that is how it has been. So government should know how to solve the problem of the poor, because when you don't solve it, you create more opportunity for the rich to continue to be rich and the poor continue to be poor.
Thank you very much for your great insights, and thank you for taking out the time to be with us today, and thank you for being a part of the show from the other end of the radio. My name is Chinwe Blessing, and I have been in the studio with Adefalarin Olamileko, Voice of the People in-house analyst and also political economist. And we have been looking at these issues that are, well, in the face of Nigerians. We're seeing how we can move away and move on from it. This is what I do have to say. We cannot hide our face in the dirt and expect a problem to just vanish, especially problems as big as the ones we have in this nation. The only way that we can get out of it is when we tell ourselves the harsh truths, the realities in our face, and do what needs to be done to get the results that we so desperately need as a nation, Nigeria. In your own quarter, in your own quarters, contribute your own quota to the building of this nation. You owe it to yourself and to your neighbors to do your own part. Start by being vigilant. You see something, you say something. After all,